Back in the day, the city of Metroville used to be chock full of superheroes, people who used a wide variety of powers and abilities to save others and stop evil whenever and wherever it appeared. And among those heroes, one of the best was Bob Parr, also known as the super strong hero Mr. Incredible. Seriously, even after 15 years of forced retirement, most of it spent stuck behind a desk at a soul-crushing job, both 2004's The Incredibles and the recently released Incredibles 2 proved that this guy is still crazy strong. I mean, sure, when he was younger, he was able to uproot some big-ass trees or whatever, and that's cool, but in his later adventures, he claimed that snapping a human spine would be as easy as breaking a toothpick.
I'll crush her.
Oh, that sounds a little dark for you. Now, go ahead.
It'll be easy, like breaking a toothpick.
Crumpled metal like it was tissue paper, on reflex, and even beat the shit out of a giant robot, the previous versions of which killed a ton of retired superheroes. Seriously, how strong is this guy? Well, now that Incredibles 2 is finally out in theaters, I think it's finally time we figure out how incredible Mr. Incredible really is.
Showtime.
Just before I get into it though, I just want to remind you guys that obviously I might be getting into some light spoilers for Incredibles 2, so if you don't want me to spoil anything for you, you should probably click away and watch one of my other videos instead. Anyways, as usual, we need a base strength stat to start with, and there's actually a pretty simple one we can use towards the end of Incredibles 2, when we see Bob casually lift and bend a large anchor chain link around himself as part of an effort to stop a giant boat from crashing into the city. Now I'm just guesstimating here since the movie only just came out and I really have no way of scaling anything or doing any of the math while I'm at the theater, but I have seen some chain links that could very easily fit a grown human being, and each one of those links could weigh up to about 500 pounds. That's about 227 kilograms or 0.25 tons. Yeah, it's not a great comparison, but I figure I can recalculate this one after I see the movie a couple more times, or wait till it's out on Blu-ray and DVD and do like a versus match with one of the things from the Fantastic Four movies or something. I don't know, it depends on what all you guys want to see. Anyways, skipping back to relatively early on in the first movie, we see Bob, after accidentally ruining his car, lift the vehicle over his head before gently setting it back on the ground and just sauntering away. Because that's not going to get you any unwanted attention. Anyways, according to the Internet Movie Car Database, the car is supposed to be a Nash Metropolitan, which has a curb weight, or the weight of the car without anyone or anything in it, of 1,785 pounds or 810 kilograms or about 0.8 tons. Now that's definitely pretty strong, but as we see later on during the movie's training montage, Bob can absolutely carry around heavier weights, as we see when he's lifting both a boxcar and a tank car. I'm assuming they're both empty, considering how his preferred training spot looks like a train graveyard, which means they both should only weigh up to about 60,000 pounds or about 27,215 kilograms or about 30 tons. For comparison, the African bush elephant, the largest land animal on Earth, weighs in at 11.5 tons. That means that Bob was lifting the equivalent of over 2.5 elephants with each arm after not working out for 15 years. Damn! And despite what Edna might say,
"My God, you've gotten fat,"
clearly all that training's been paying off, since later in the movie, we see Bob, as Mr. Incredible, trying to infiltrate Syndrome's island base and casually picking up a giant statue head to use as like a cover or something to get past a literal lava waterfall. Now based on Edna's GPS and that statue head Mr. Incredible's lugging around, I'd say it's pretty safe to assume that Syndrome's island is supposed to be where Easter Island is in real life, meaning that head is most likely supposed to be an actual Easter Island head. Now in real life, these heads vary in size and weight and all that, but after using Bob as a scale, we can see that the statue head actually matches up to some of the larger real-life heads on Easter Island, meaning Mr. Incredible was swinging around about 180,000 pounds, or about 81,646 kilograms, or about 90 tons. And keep in mind, he was doing that super casually. Seriously, even if she didn't hear that, wouldn't she have seen the big-ass statue head as she's walking towards him? Ah, well, whatever. Anyways, going back to his training montage, there's a part when Mr. Incredible's actually benching a locomotive. Based on the look of the locomotive, and the fact that the paint job was directly inspired by real-life trains, I'm assuming this is supposed to be an Alco FA, which had a weight of 243,000 pounds, or 110,000 kilograms, or about 121 tons. Remember how I said African elephants weighed in at 11.5 tons? Well, benching that locomotive means Mr. Incredible's benching the equivalent of about 10.5 elephants relatively easily. Moving on, going back to the training montage, at one point we saw Bob dragging around 8 different train cars behind him. Since the different types of train cars tend to come up to around the same empty weight, about 30 to 35 tons, that means Mr. Incredible's dragging, bare minimum, about 480,000 pounds, or about 217,724 kilograms, or about 240 tons behind him. That's the equivalent of about 12.5 elephants. Skipping back to Incredibles 2, there's a part during the opening fight when we see Bob dent metal with a single punch while chasing after the Underminer. Assuming he's hitting steel, that would mean Bob Bob can casually reach the yield strength of steel, meaning he can generate 250 megapascals or 36,000 psi with a single punch. Just to put that into perspective, remember how I used to talk about boxer Michael Spinks and how that dude had a punching power of 750 psi? Well, Mr. Incredible, in the very first fight in Incredibles 2, proved that his punches are exactly 48 times stronger than a pro boxer's punches. But you know what's more impressive than that? Getting hit in the face by a train and bringing it to a complete stop. Seriously, that is, dare I say, incredible? Alright, let's just do the math. Anyways, based on several clues from the movie, including the newspaper Bob reads, the look of Metroville, and the fact that the city has an elevated train system, it seems like the movie is set in a fictional version of Chicago. Therefore, considering how the train scene takes place in the year 1947, 15 years before the main events of the movie in 1962, this tells us that the movie's train is supposed to be a version of the 5000 series of train cars, which had an empty weight of 93,000 pounds, or about 42,184 kilograms, or about 46 tons. Considering how we see up to 11 cars in the scene, that puts the train's empty weight at 1,023,000 pounds, or about 464,024 kilograms, or about 511 tons. Now we need to factor in the weight of the passengers. Assuming each car was full, meaning they reached the seating capacity of 96 people, and considering that the average American weight around that time was 153.15 pounds, or about 69 kilograms, this would mean that the total weight of the passengers on the train would be 161,726.4 pounds, or about 73,357 kilograms, making the total mass of the train 1,184,726.4 pounds, or about 537,382 kilograms, or about 592 tons. Now for the deceleration rate. We know that the train goes at a speed of 55 miles an hour as per Chicago requirements, and Mr. Incredible brings it to a complete stop in about 11 seconds. Plugging those into the formula for acceleration gives us a deceleration rate of 5 meters per second squared. Plugging both the train's mass and the deceleration rate into the formula for force, we can see that Mr. Incredible was able to exert a force of 2,686,914.28 newtons, or about 302 tons of force in order to stop the train. That's like getting slammed in the face by the equivalent of about 26 elephants and walking away from it like it was nothing. But even that's nowhere near as impressive as Bob's greatest strength feat. See, towards the end of the first movie, after Syndrome loses control of his superhero murder bot, the Omnidroid, the robot nearly crushes Bob's kids, Dash and Violet, until he jumped in the way, caught it, and proceeded to lift the thing. But how heavy is it? To find out, we'll need to figure out both the Omnidroid's volume and density, then multiply them together to find its mass. So first, let's figure out the volume. Using the buildings as a ruler, we can see that the Omnidroid's body is about 5 stories in diameter. Considering how a single story is about 3 meters, this would make the diameter of the Omnidroid about 15 meters, or about 49 feet. We can also assume the thickness of the robot's hull is about half a meter, given that shot of the defeated Omnidroid towards the end of the movie. And now that we know all that, we can start plugging numbers into the formula for volume, which gives us a final volume of 330.39 cubic meters for the Omnidroid. And if we assume that the density of whatever the Omnidroid's made of is similar to steel, then that would mean the material the robot's made of should have a density of about 7,700 kilograms per cubic meter. And now that we know both our density and our volume, we can multiply the two of them together to find the robot's overall weight. Doing the math on that gives the Omnidroid a weight of about 5,608,566 pounds, or 2,544,003 kilograms, or about 2,804 tons. Going back to our elephant comparison from earlier, messing around with the Omnidroid meant that Bob lifted something that weighs the same as about 244 elephants. But even that's not the most impressive part of this feat. Remember, he didn't just lift the Omnidroid, he also caught it as it slammed itself towards his kids, meaning acceleration would have added a lot more force behind it. So let's see how much impact force Bob was withstanding. Going back to the buildings it stands near, the Omnidroid appears to be about 70 feet, or about 21 meters tall, and it seems like it dropped its body that distance in about 0.8 seconds. This gives the Omnidroid a dropping speed of 87.5 feet per second, or 26.67 meters per second. Plugging this into the formula for acceleration, we can see that the Omnidroid has an acceleration of about 33 meters per second. Plugging that acceleration and the Omnidroid's mass into the formula for force tells us that Mr. Incredible was able to not only withstand, but also overpower an attack generating 83,943,618.4 newtons, or 9,435.64 tons of force. Going back to the elephant comparison, we can see that the added force the acceleration was adding to the Omnidroid's attack meant that Bob would have felt like he was catching around 840 elephants at the same time. Holy shit. Well, I guess he definitely lives up to his superhero codename, huh? And to think, most people just wrote him off as relatively weak compared to a lot of other superheroes, just because Syndrome's file said he can lift in excess of 55 tons. Wait a minute, that's it? 55 tons? I know that thing says in excess, meaning Syndrome thinks Bob can lift more, but that's the starting point he's going with? Personally, I think uprooting a big fucking tree would have taken more than 55 tons of force to pull off, and that's only from one night of superheroics. Are we seriously supposed to believe that Mr. Incredible never lifted anything anywhere close to a tree the entire time he was a superhero? Come on, Syndrome, I thought you were supposed to be some kind of a super genius. But anyways, guys, that's how strong Mr. Incredible is in both The Incredibles and Incredibles 2. If you guys agreed with any of my calculations, or if you have your own numbers you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.